Hey, parents, welcome back to our show. If you ever get kind of like frustrated with the mess, the stuff, and the endless piles in your kids' room or in the living room, you're not alone, okay? I myself have had little fantasies of just like striking a match and honestly torching it all, okay? Because it gets overwhelming, right? I never do that, but sometimes just all of the stuff that we have cluttering up our homes, for me, it just drives me a little bit nuts. And then I get agitated. And as the good old saying goes, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So then all of a sudden the home is not a place of peace and refreshment, but it's nagging and threatening. If you don't pick your stuff up, then guess what's going to happen? And it all just kind of spirals out of control. So if you can relate, just sit back, relax, enjoy the show, because today on our show, we've got a minimalist living coach and creator of a popular blog called Rich in What Matters here with us today. She's going to help us understand how to raise kids with less stuff and talk about the benefits of all of us living a bit more simply. So, welcome to the show, Julia Ubbenga.
Thanks, Jordan. It's good to be here.
Julia, you are one of us. You're married, you have 5 kids, you prioritize your faith, you're a working mom. You totally get it. And even with all that going on, you just finished writing a book that launched, I believe today, the day this podcast is out, called Declutter Your Heart and Home. And you did that because of your passion for helping people learn how to live with less. So, if you wouldn't mind, jump in and tell us more about what kind of inspired you to write this book and how it reflects your own personal journey toward minimalism.
So, I think so many people can relate to what you said at the beginning there. So many moms are overwhelmed at home right now. And a lot of the reason that we're overwhelmed and we're exhausted is we simply have too much stuff to manage in our home, in our hearts, in our minds. And there's a quote I love from St. Teresa of Calcutta. She said, "The more you own, the more you are occupied. But the less you own, the more free you are." And we're not made to live in survival mode. We're not made to live our days exhausted, on edge, nagging our kids constantly. We're made for abundant lives. And we can have those lives. We can end the chaos, the distraction, the discontent. And so I wrote the book because I wanted to give moms the tools to live a simpler life if they're feeling called to do that, a simpler life with less stuff. And I myself, I am a minimalist now, a mom of 5 kids, like you said, ages 11, 7, 4, 2, and 2 months. And I have not always been a minimalist, though, pretty far from it. I grew up close to my grandma, and my grandma loved to shop. She would shop whether she needed something or not, whether she had the money or not. It was her love language. I'd go into her home and I'd see her closet. She had multiple closets. They're just filled. They were stuffed with new clothes. 80% still had the price tags on them. So when I spent time with my grandma, we'd go shopping. And what I learned was that shopping was fun. It was a way to feel good. It was a way not to feel bad and to kind of cover up hard feelings. And I carried this mindset into my 20s. I started making money. I started spending money. And pretty soon I had a whole lot of stuff and $40,000 worth of consumer debt. So when I thought about this stuff, I felt bad. But when I felt bad, I'd go buy something new because that's what I thought would make me feel good, what I thought would make me happy. And so this cycle continued up until the time our second daughter was born. And I was working outside the home as a speech language pathologist at the time. But I always wanted to be a stay at home mom. That was my dream, to stay home with our kids. My husband got a promotion at the time and I could stay home. I was so excited. But I had this really idyllic vision of what stay at home mom life would be like. In my mind, I would be with our daughters baking cookies, snuggling on the couch, reading Little House on the Prairie, giggling over tea parties. So in my mind, it was just going to be great. But a couple of weeks into the stay at home mom gig, I wouldn't have even called myself a stay at home mom. I would have said a full time stuff manager would have been a better
Oh,
title because that is what I did. I was constantly picking up things and looking for things and tripping over things I hadn't picked up yet. It was just all consuming. I was exhausted. I was stressed. I was distracted. Like I was there, but I wasn't really there. I couldn't be present to the people around me. And so I was just overwhelmed. And a couple months into living this way, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. And I have this memory of this morning where I was up in the nursery, I was feeding the baby, and I was talking to God, really pleading with God. I was like, God, this is not what I signed up for. What is going on here? Something needs to change. And I was reading the Bible, and a couple of verses out of Luke chapter 12, they just jumped off the page at me. And they said, your life does not consist of possessions. Be rich in what matters. And so I paused right there and I asked myself, was I rich in what matters? Was I rich in relationships, time for prayer, time for a hobby that I loved? And the answer was no, absolutely not. I wasn't. So that planted the seed that something in my life around the area of possessions needed to change. But I didn't know what. I didn't know where to go from there. But that same week, I had a therapy appointment. And at the end of the session, just as I was leaving, the therapist said, Julia, have you ever heard of minimalism? I'm like, oh, you mean houses with white walls and next to nothing in them? And she's like, no, there's more to it than that. Look into it. I think you might be interested. So I was curious. I did a Google search in the car right there on minimalism and realized there's a lot of resources about it. So I started reading the books and the blogs. I listened to a lot of podcasts. And this idea that I didn't need all this stuff to be happy. And in fact, I'd be a whole lot happier with less of it because then I'd have the time and the energy to focus on who and what mattered. It was a mindset shift that was life changing. And it finally gave me a vision of how to get out of this postpartum depression tunnel that I felt like I was stuck in at the time. So I went all in on minimalism. We got rid of 75% of our stuff over the course of a year. Yeah. And I started a blog at the time. I called it Rich in What Matters, based on the Bible verse that spoke to me. And we've been living this way now as a minimalist family for 6 years. We downsized to an apartment for a while, got out of debt, built a new home after that that's intentionally smaller. And so, yeah, that's been the last 6 years. It's been an amazing journey.
Wow, what an awesome story. And so many things are bubbling up for me, as I'm sure are for our listeners. I think the first thing that really struck me is how you are able to see where your shopping, your gathering, your consumerism stemmed from. And as a therapist for 20 years, I know the value of going back and understanding, like, where did this start? How did I come to this place? And so for you to tell the story about your grandmother, and I'm sure you had a lovely relationship with her, and she's somebody very near and dear to your heart. And so you think, if this is good for grandma, it's good for me. Like, she's a wonderful woman, right? These are some of the things that she did. And so it's natural for us to want to imitate our parents or our grandparents when we love them and we're so close to them. And so I really appreciate you sharing just where it all came from for you, because I think that's important for all of us to look back and go, hey, if we're collecting stuff, if we're gathering things up in our homes, or if we are saving things and having a fear of getting rid of them, that all comes from an experience. And until we get to that, I think one of the things that I've been guilty of is just like these little hacks to try to figure out how to, get rid of things. And then what happens next is that all of a sudden I've gotten rid of half of my closet, and guess what? I filled it back up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Is that
That's something a lot of people deal with. I'm glad you brought that up because what I've found is that decluttering your home can give you a dopamine hit just like buying something new can. So you can get in this cycle of decluttering, there's your dopamine hit, and then you buy stuff back and you're decluttering again. So you never really feeling the actual true freedom from living with less stuff because you're constantly filling that space back up with more stuff. And I think that that's why my new book, Declutter Your Heart and Your Home, How a Minimalist Life Yields Maximum Joy, is helpful because it goes to the heart of the matter, too. We're not just decluttering our outer home, we're looking at our inner home as well, where we deal with things like restlessness and comparison and hurry and fear and distraction. Because, for example, if we're still dealing with comparison and we're trying to declutter our home, we get rid of our stuff, say your closet, for example, half your clothes are gone. But then you see your neighbor and, oh, her outfits are great. And you're comparing yourself, and maybe you need those too. And so you buy them all back. And there you go again, your closet is full. So we need to really uproot those things that clutter our heart too to find the real freedom in living with less.
I love that. Declutter your heart and your home because they're so tied together, right? What we do, our behaviors are tied to our beliefs and our thoughts. And so drilling down to our thoughts and our beliefs about, what we're gathering up and saving and all of those things will help us change our behavior and keep that behavior changed, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, one of the things that I noticed too on your website is just how you mentioned that the state of our homes often reflect the state of our souls. And that has been such an interesting concept for me. And all, also, I will admit, and I told my son he's homesick today, and I was telling him about this interview, and I said, "Son, I'm going to tell her, like, if the state of our home reflects something about our soul, I am seriously afraid for my soul when I look at my basement because it's bad, Julia. It's bad. It's like unfinished. It's space we don't actually, in my opinion, need. And so it has become a storage ground and a place where we save things and store things from outside down there. And it's just a holy disaster. So tell us a little bit more about this concept of how our physical environment reflects the state of our soul.
Yeah, so the book is divided into three sections that parallel a journey through an outer and an inner home. So, section one is laying the foundation and decluttering the soul. Then you journey up through the home, you get to section two, which is decluttering the main floor and the heart. So, an example chapter here would be decluttering your wardrobe and letting go of comparison. Then you continue your journey up through the home to section three, you get to decluttering the upstairs and decluttering the mind. An example chapter here would be decluttering sentimental items and letting go of fear. As I was decluttering my unneeded physical items, what I realized is that I was actually curating two homes, an outer home and an inner home. So the first housed my possessions, and the second, the home of my soul, it housed God. And I think it's important to consider our inner home. God has created this inner home within every human being. We hear Paul's words. He says our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit. So we've got this inner structure where the Holy Spirit is designed to live within us. And we hear St. Teresa of Avila, she talks about it too. She says the soul resembles a castle. There's inner rooms. We access it through prayer. So we have this inner structure. And so the question I think that I started asking myself, I realized I needed to ask myself was, do I have space for God's presence within me? So what is the state of my inner home looking like? Is if he was at the door and knocking, could he open that door? Or was it full of clutter? Were there boxes of inner clutter all over this inner home and he couldn't even really get in? And then if he could get in, he could squeeze his way through. The Holy Spirit's wedged in a corner. He wants to move freely throughout our inner home so we can feel his promptings throughout the day. But if we have all this inner clutter, we really can't. He can't move. Our soul is stifled. And so, I realized that we just need to consider the state of our homes and that your outer environment can serve as a lens to this inner environment. And so we can ask ourselves about that, but not in a shoulding way. That doesn't do any good. It's not time to feel guilty. It's more about a curious and observing way. So you can ask yourself, what is my home reflecting back to me? Is it chaos? Is it distraction? Is it peace? Is it calm? And are those accurate descriptors of my inner home as well?
So good. So good. And I do believe this to be true. I find that most um, freedom I experience internally is when I'm in the space in my home that is the most um, organized and tidy and just simple, And so I think about that when I think about my interior life too, that when my calendar becomes overran with kids' activities and meetings and networking events and all the fun, double dates and all of this, I start really crowding out space for contemplation, for meditation, for just nurturing my spiritual life and protecting that time around praying in the morning or just reading a good book and contemplating the words on the page. And so I get this. Like
Hmm.
I get this. And I like how you talk about the three sections of your book. So it's not about like torching it all and like starting from scratch, running to the, studio apartment with your family of five or whatever, and just being extreme, but starting in small ways to chip away at the clutter and your calendar so that you can start experiencing those little bits of freedom and getting those small wins and then be able to kind of move to the next level of minimizing things in your heart and your home.
Hmm. And I think a lot of the reason your basement might look like it does is because you've got a lot going on too. When we're so busy, like you said, we don't attend to the little things well. Our mind's always on the next thing. And, the only place we can meet God is in the present moment. And if we're always looking to the next thing and our next commitment or our next purchase, we miss him. He's there wanting to connect us with us, wanting to be with us. As Augustine said, he wants to be closer to us than we are to ourselves. And so we need to make space for him to move within us and we can feel him with us.
Yes, yes. Well, what are some of the tips that you give maybe in your book or on your website for people to just practically get started in decluttering, let's say, their home first?
So I would say that it's important to think about where you start. There's really no right or wrong way to declutter, but I found that there's a most efficient way to declutter that worked for me. And so what I did is I had heard from decluttering coaches, and this works for some people, is to start in a non sentimental contained area, maybe your kitchen drawer, and start from there, start with little wins, and then work your way up. And I tried that, and I had this really nice, tidy kitchen drawer, and it gave me the dopamine hit of finishing a project. But then what I found was that I would turn around and our house was just flooded with kids' stuff, and my stress levels just skyrocketed again. So it wasn't really making functional change in our home. So what I ended up doing is I just took a piece of paper and wrote down all the clutter categories in my home that I wanted to declutter, and I rated them on a scale of which were causing me the most stress. So 10 was the most stressful, 1 was the least, gave them the numbers, and that's the order that I decluttered our home. I started with kids' clothes, they were everywhere. And after I had decluttered our kids' clothes, I felt an immediate lightening in the home, one that I hadn't felt with the kitchen drawer. And even our daughter, who was 5 at the time, she could start helping with laundry then. She wanted to. I found her one morning by the laundry basket, rolling her clothes, getting ready to put them in her drawer because now there was less stuff and it matched her ability level and she could actually help out. And when I saw that she was doing that independently, I was like, I am on to something. And I was
Yes.
motivated. I was motivated then to go on to kids' toys, which was the next section. So, and the next
Okay, that
category.
is so practical. I love it. You're saying just take out a piece of paper
Hmm.
and write down the areas of your home and then rate them 1 to 10. What's driving you the most nuts?
Hmm.
What's causing you the most agitation or irritability? And then start there because that's very personal to you. It's not just saying, generically start in your kitchen and just do the, spatula drawer or whatever. But instead, go with what's driving you most nuts.
Hmm.
This is such great practical advice. This is something that people can implement today is
Hmm.
just taking a personal inventory of things and then marking down maybe the first thing that you're going to do and then set a date on your calendar. When is it that you're going to take action and move through that first area of your home?
Yep. And there's multiple ways you can do it. You can, set a date for yourself, get the childcare in, and just knock out that section. That's what I did with the kids' clothes. Or you can just get up 15 minutes earlier a day and do 15 minutes a day chipping away at that most stressful clutter category. And that'll give you good results too. Either way, well, if you declutter 15 minutes a day, that's 7.5 hours a month. That's 90 hours a year. You can get a lot done in 90 hours a year. So small, consistent changes or small, consistent efforts can lead to big changes. Yeah.
Yes, that is our strategy over here at Families of Character is small changes over time yield
Hmm.
big results. I love it. It's just the small things daily. Well, why does this matter for our kids? Like raising kids with less stuff. What advantages do our kids have leaving the home, being raised in an environment where there's just less stuff around?
There's so many benefits for kids living in an environment with less stuff. I think that leaving the home, they realize that you don't have to live a life that everybody else does to be happy. You don't have to look to external things to give you joy. It's more about the internal things, and you don't have to be attached to possessions. There's a freedom in that, a different mentality. And I think too that kids, they're so generous too, and so I think it teaches generosity to kids when you're just consistently making it your family's culture that you don't hold on to everything. If you get something new, okay, you're going to give something back to somebody who doesn't have something, because you don't need all this stuff. We just don't. And it's funny too, thinking about kids as we were talking earlier before we started recording, is that a lot of times moms hold on to all this stuff that they think their kids are going to want when they're older. And even just yesterday, I was talking to someone on a podcast who said they kept their umbilical cord clamp for their children. Like they're multiple, she had 8 kids. She kept all these umbilical cord clamps to give them when they left the house. I'm like, they don't want that. They don't. And
No.
it's just you, whatever you're keeping for your kids, you're actually keeping for yourself. So don't hold on to all this stuff that you think your kids are going to need. Teach your kids generosity. Teach them that there's a different, lighter way to live. You don't have to live the way society says that you do. You can have an abundant life without an abundance of stuff.
So good. You're saying that holding on to stuff for our kids, keeping bins and baskets full of things that we're going to drop off on their porch when they're 45, right? And say, here's all your things from childhood is really not going to benefit them because we have gathered up this stuff ourselves as the mom or the dad. And so what's inside the box is actually for us. So if we were saving our own memory box, we actually should, those boxes should be ours to keep because those are our memories.
Absolutely. Yep. Choose a couple of those umbilical cord clamps and put them in your own memory box. Yes, they are for you.
That's that's right. Y'all have got to go to her blog, richinwhatmatters.com, and read about this because this really is such a different way of thinking about things. And one of the things that's really made me think about Julia in just reading some of the articles on your website is just this idea that if we slow down in family life and we help our kids truly assimilate something that they receive from someone and take it in a deeply emotional way where they can connect with this thing, then there's not this need to keep the thing, right? That instead we're helping them to log a memory in their mind and to feel that connection or that gift in their body so that they can be free to let it go and let it resonate inside of them. And
Mhm.
so one of the techniques that I have learned in a coaching program through Heal that I belong to is just this idea of when you receive something. For example, our 13-year-old son just had a birthday and my brother, who is his godfather, wrote him a nice letter, a handwritten letter, sent it through the mail. And I had my son read it to himself and then read it slowly out loud and then read it sentence by sentence with a deep inhale and exhale after each sentence, after each period. And so he was able to like fully embrace the message. There were funny things and there were serious things and there were very sentimental, sweet things in there. But in doing that, I thought, I'm helping him to just really truly receive this gift in the deepest way. It's something that someone taught me how to do.
Hmm.
And then he can be free to keep that in his little box or to throw it right in the trash or shred it or do whatever he'd like with it, make a paper airplane out of it, like it's not about the thing, it's about the experience and really truly taking it in.
That's
So,
interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that
yeah.
before. I love that though. And I think that could actually help people decluttering sentimental items too, because the truth is that our memories are kept within us, they're not within our stuff. And a lot of the reasons we don't let go of things is because we're afraid we're going to lose that memory if we discard that possession. This could be a great tool if you have letters or cards that you don't want to hold on to. A lot of times I tell people take a picture of it and then you can go back on your phone and you can look at it there. You can still have the memories without the stuff. But this is a way to almost encode those memories more deeply into us. They are there, but we can get them even more strongly into our being. I like that.
Yes, read it one time through to yourself, one time aloud
Hmm.
at a little slower pace, and then one time with a deep inhale and exhale, blowing it all out
Uh-huh.
before you start the next sentence.
Huh.
Yeah, it's been a great gift to learn how to do this myself, and um, I really believe that this way of living more simply will give us, like you said, freedom not only in our interior lives, but also just freedom to focus on what matters most in our marriages
Mhm.
and in family life. And
Mhm.
I love that idea. So this is just awesome. Um, in terms of kids leaving the home, realizing that there's a different way to live, I really want to kind of go back to that because they truly won't know that they can live differently and set up their dorm room differently or their apartment differently than their assigned roommate if they don't live differently at home. They're not just going to live with a bunch of stuff and have clutter everywhere and then take off and to the university and roll into their dorm room and live with like barely anything. This is just not going to happen. We
Mhm.
have to condition them in our homes. Right? So what
Right.
was it like for you when you downsized and you said like, "Hey, we even went into an apartment, a small apartment so that we could, get ourselves back on our feet financially because of
Mhm.
the consumerism that we had been, wrapped up in." What was it like to downsize like that?
It was better than I expected. I had a few reservations at first, like how is my daughter, who was 5 at the time, the baby didn't know any different, but how is my 5-year-old going to react to this? I remember holding my breath after I decluttered her room. I did the initial toy purge myself. I knew what she loved. I didn't want her to start professing her love for all these things that I knew she didn't, toys that were broken, she didn't play with. So I did the initial toy purge myself, but then like going forward, I let her help me. I have her do now all the maintenance decluttering. But so I held my breath when she walked into her newly decluttered room and she loved it. She looked at me, she said, "Mom, thank you." And she was twirling around her room with all the space. I'm like, "You're kidding me." She loves it. Yeah. And I loved it too. And I could just go sit on the floor and play with her where before I did not want to enter that room because it didn't make me feel good to be in it, honestly. I felt like my nervous system was being pinged constantly. And then there she was talking. She's super social. So there she is talking my ear off. I'm like, I can't focus on you. And so the first time I could go in and I remember just sitting next to her in the room there and really focusing on her. I'm like, this is how it should be. This is wonderful.
Yes.
Hmm.
Oh, that draws a memory up for me about, once or twice a year, we'll go down into the dungeon basement where we've put toys and, whatever, crafts and, the cage for the chinchilla that we've never gotten yet, all the things. And we'll just go, you know what, let's just get in here and get this tidied up and take a trip to, the ark or whatever and get this space, you know, like looking like we would want to spend time here. And our kids love it. They will spend like 2 days down there
Yep.
and just be laughing and giggling and inventing things and like being so creative. And so I think your point is a good one where we don't have to be worried about them like, oh, missing things.
Mm.
They're actually missing things if their rooms are or are cluttered. They're missing things if their rooms are cluttered because they're not able to access those creative parts of their mind
Mhm. You're
in order to just, yeah, go
absolutely,
there.
absolutely, you're right. I think a lot of parents do have those reservations that if I let go of my kids' stuff, I'm going to be harming my kids. And society tells us that more is better. Buy your kids more, buy your kids a good childhood. So if I let go of this stuff, I'm going to be harming my kids. And if you believe that, I believe your kids are going to sense that. So when you are starting decluttering with them, I think it's important to work through your own reservations first so that you can talk to them from a place of assurance and calm. And it can help to read the research, like you were mentioning, their creativity, their problem solving skills, their ability to play more deeply, more independently. It all flourishes in a simple environment. There's research that shows that. There is a study I love out of Germany where the researchers removed all the toys from a kindergarten room and they watched to see what the kids would do. And at first, day one, the kids didn't really know what to do. They were just kind of walking around aimlessly. They weren't sure what to do. But by day two, they were playing so creatively with the desks, with the chairs, with whatever was in the room in their own imaginative worlds. And the researchers did conclude this that the kids played more deeply, more creatively in a simple environment. And so I think when we can really understand that we're doing our kids a huge favor when we simplify their environments, it can help us bring that culture into our family.
Mm, so, so good. Yes. And that makes me think, okay, what about grandma who had all this stuff and shopped all the time? And it's kids' birthday time, it's Christmas, it's every holiday where they want to shower them with all this stuff. So I'm sure you've helped people with this issue or maybe even dealt with it yourself. How do you set boundaries with your family so that when it comes time for birthdays and gift giving, that you're not getting bombed on with all the stuff that you're going to turn around and politely give away? I mean, how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's real. And grandma gives things because she wants to show love. Giving a gift is simply an expression of love. And so, what I found is helpful is you can receive that love, you can receive that gift. And after you've received it, it's completely yours to decide what you want to do with it. Then you can decide to give it away, keep it if it's being played with. But if you're wanting to even limit the amount of stuff that's coming into your environment, you can talk to grandma, talk to the person who wants to give the gifts, and you can tell them specifically what you want them to get your children. It doesn't have to be stuff. It could be an experience, the zoo pass, it could be something consumable. Bath bombs are a big hit at our house with four girls. And so you can still let them give things if that's what they love to do, but it doesn't have to be the latest gadget or noise making toy that you're just going to, find that's driving you crazy and then you're going to donate it. So, yeah, and they probably would like to be a more intentional shopper for your family so that their money is going toward what will be used and appreciated too.
Yes, I always love that when people say, what would be a good gift to get for your child? And I don't think that, oh, they're not putting any time and effort into this gift and they just want a quick like Amazon idea.
Hmm.
I really do think they're going, I feel like giving your child something, but I don't just want to give them anything. Like I want this to be purposeful
Hmm.
and meaningful. And so your kids best. So what is that? So I think we could do that ourselves, right? When we're shopping for people as well as
Yeah.
is thinking about the family. And if they are trying to declutter and live a more simple life, then maybe an experience or an invitation to go to the water park and buy their ticket in and have a fun memory would be
Hmm.
better than buying them all the stuff that they could use at the pool
Uh,
that's gonna
yeah.
get lost.
Absolutely. Like I have a good friend who knows I live a minimalist lifestyle that our family does. And so we threw a birthday party last summer for my son when he turned 4. She texted me right away, okay, what does he want? And my son loves clothes. So I said, he loves clothes, buy him some clothes. So she had this t-shirt made with his name on it, has like a baseball bat and a soccer ball, and he loved it. It was his favorite gift of anything he got, wore it every single day, had his name on it, it was clothes, this blue shirt. So I think that it does help to ask, what do they like? And then you can get something that they really do love instead of just
Yes.
something they pitch. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, this is so, so good. So, when you started downsizing, it sounded like you started with your child's room, you went through and did it like did the major decluttering first of the things you knew she didn't like, and then allowed her to kind of pick through things.
Mhm.
Um, when you move to a smaller home, because this is a big time, right? This is like not just staying in the place you're in and decluttering, but it's like picking up and moving and downsizing. What kind of fears did you have, making that move? Was it, and was it your idea? Was your husband on board? Were you both like gung ho about this thing?
Yeah, I think I probably planted the seed first, and he did get on board with it because it made sense. It just made sense. We were finding so much freedom in this lifestyle. We're like, why don't we go even deeper in it and just, see what it's like? And it was great. By that time when we moved, I didn't have a lot of reservations about getting rid of much more. It makes me think that the average home now has 300,000 possessions in it, over 300,000 items in it. The average home, and we only use 20% of our stuff. So I really, when we moved, I was like, well, we only use 20% of our stuff. Let's just bring the 20%. And so that was a really, really efficient way for me just to realize, is this something I use and love every day? No? Okay, you're not going to come with me and I'm not going to miss you. And I didn't.
Oh my goodness, 300,000, Julia.
It's a
This
ton.
is obscene.
Yep.
Like that is crazy.
Hmm.
And I'm looking around just my little office here in the podcast studio thinking, yep, I can see how it could get up to
Yeah. We
300,000,
we live in a
5,000
culture
square
now.
feet, or yeah.
Yeah, our culture now has more possessions, more stuff than any culture in the history of the world. So, yes, it's amazing, like you said.
Oh, wild.
Hmm.
And just that we hold on to things that we don't need or use or have multiple, you know, things. I have 3 printers. Okay, why? Am I so afraid that one of them's gonna break down that I need 2 backups, right?
Now,
I
I don't
mean,
even own a printer. I probably do need to buy a printer eventually because I'm texting my parents. I'm like, can you print this for us? Or running, to a shop that has a coffee shop that has a printer in it. I'm like, okay, this would be a valid purchase.
okay, so once you go to the other side,
Hmm.
then you have to kind of really discern, is this something we
Yeah.
really do need, or can we get away with
And
not
honestly,
having it,
Jordan,
or
I think that's how you find out how to live with enough. I think you have to experiment on the side of too little because all of us know, well, most of us in this day and age know what it's like to live with too much stuff, but we don't know what it's like to live with too little. And so when we declutter, we can think about being ruthless, going even deeper than you think you need to, see what you can live without. And you don't have to let go of it right away. You can box it up in a corner of your basement storage. Go 3 months, see what it's like living without it, see if you actually
Mhm.
needed it or not. Go pull it back if you do. Because that's how we find how to live with enough. That's how we find when we're done decluttering. It's when we reach that level where we've added a little bit more back in, and that's feeling good to us.
Yes,
Hmm.
I love that tip. I read that on your website about the spatula. Like, could
Ah,
you actually live with just one spatula? Well, try it for a month. Get rid of all your other,
yeah.
cooking utensils or all the 7 spatulas and just put the one in there. And if you can make it for a month, then guess what? You can donate the rest of those. And that again is practical advice of how to start small
Hmm.
and to kind of test it out and give yourself permission to get into this way of thinking and living and decluttering in a very safe, non-threatening, like non-scary way. So good. So I imagine your book, which should be on my doorstep anytime since I pre-ordered it, and today's like launch day. But I imagine it's going to show up soon. But tell us a little bit about like who is this book for? Would you say it's for absolutely anyone? Is there a particular,
Yeah.
person you were thinking of besides mom? But
Yeah, it's written for moms. That's the main take on it, but I would say it's for anyone who wants to live a lighter life with less stuff, whether you're an empty nester and you're looking to downsize, you're still a mom, maybe not in the toys aren't everywhere anymore, but you're still decluttering your home, you're looking to downsize. So it's got tools throughout for any woman who wants to declutter their hearts and their homes. Hmm.
I love it. Okay. Well, I'm super excited, and it is going to be linked in the show notes so that you can just click right below the episode here that you're watching or listening to and grab a copy of the book. Do you do any coaching with women when it comes to decluttering their heart and their home? Is Do you have workshops or other resources available for
I
women?
do. Yep. I'm an online educator. I have courses. So you can find those courses at my website, at my blog, richandwhatmatters.com.
Awesome. Have you ever heard of, and I'm asking because I'm thinking I've got to get an accountability buddy. Have you ever heard of a few women like taking your workshop together or watching the online videos together and then like doing this as buddies, like accountability partner? Okay, here's where we're going to start, ladies.
That would be a really powerful way to do it, I think. Yeah, you could totally do that. Hmm.
Yes, there's such strength in numbers of knowing that there's other people that are like getting on board with this too, and that you could have a little community of people that are, working towards a common goal. We talk about that a lot at Families of Character. Is like if I have a goal as a mom to make my bed every day, but I don't share that with my child, then I'm depriving them of the freedom that I experience when I make the right choice right away when I get up in the morning to deny myself something I'd rather do and do something that is good for me and is healthy for me.
Hmm.
And so I like the idea of a little community of moms that are like, we're going to live simpler lives. We're going to live with less, and we're going to, encourage our kids and live a more simple lifestyle with our entire family so that we can all make space in our hearts and our homes for the number one thing that matters, and that is God to do his work in us and for us to have that space to shine the light that he wants us to go out in our communities, in our neighborhoods, and in our workplaces and in our homes to really shine.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I think that we weren't designed to live weighed down by clutter. And when we do free that space in our homes, in our souls, we do have more space to shine in the areas that He's put us in our lives, and around the people who He's planted near us for a reason. So I love that. Mhm.
Yes, so good. Well, are you on any of the social media channels? Can people follow you there?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Yep, we have a fun Instagram community at Rich and What Matters.
Wonderful. Okay, check that out, guys. Not because you're trying to clutter your mind and do more things, but because we need a way to connect to people who we resonate with,
Mhm.
who are offering, free tools to help us get started, who have resources like a book and courses that we can take. Again, not to ask you to do one more thing, but to ask you to do something that will make a ripple effect in your life for the good and for the good of your family. So, Julia, I'm hoping to reconnect with you in like 6 months and be able to tell you the progression of my decluttering and what I've done from the time of this recording until like 6 months later, because this is my jam. Like I think I've been needing this message personally for a long time,
Well, I would love to
but this
reconnect with you and hear how it's going. I love hearing people's stories. I get DMs all the time on Instagram saying, I just decluttered this and I feel so good. And I'm like, keep going, make it happen. So I love encouraging people and hearing their stories because I know what a change it's made in my life. And so I know that it can in the lives of others too.
Yes, this is wonderful. Okay, you guys, check out Julia at richinwhatmatters.com and buy a copy of her book. You've got the link. It's gone out in our Tuesday email newsletter, so you can find it there too, but it's called Declutter Your Heart and Your Home. Grab a copy of it now and let's focus on what truly matters. Julia, thank you for being on our show.
Thanks so much, Jordan. It was a fun conversation.
Guys, I will catch up with you on another episode real soon. Please do us a favor. Share this with your spouse for sure to get them listening and on board with this idea of living with less. And also share it with friends in your circles. Text it out to people. Send our Tuesday email along to others who might not be getting our weekly newsletter so that others may hear the message and we can spread the message far and wide. Thanks so much for joining us, and I'll catch you real soon. Take care.